What's the story, Morning Glory? What's the word, Hummingbird? Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for another review of the Real Housewives of Orange County, Season 16, Episode 5, the Tele-Noella. So we start off where we left off in last week's episode, that really intense conversation that was going on between Heather and Shannon, where Heather threatened Shannon within an inch of her life, telling her that if you ever come for my family again, you're going to lose more than just my friendship. What do you mean by that, Heather? Is she going to lose her legs, her arms, her life? Like, what else is she going to lose? I need specifics. I need details. So Heather says it wasn't a threat, it was a promise, but the rest of the world, Heather, we're all going to take it as a threat. So Shannon apologizes profusely because she will do anything to get into Heather's good graces again. And it doesn't stop there. So Shannon starts getting, teary eyed and emotional and whatever. And in her confessional, Heather says that Shannon wasn't crying because she was sorry. Shannon was crying because she got caught. So Heather also tells Shannon, not only are you going to apologize to me, but I also want you to apologize to my husband. Heather could have told Shannon to strip down butt naked and dance a jig in the middle of this party, and Shannon would have done it. She would have done anything to get back into Heather's good graces. So Shannon agrees to apologize to Terry. So Heather goes and finds her husband, brings him back, and Shannon profusely apologizes to Terry. Terry accepts the apology, but then he asks her, I just want to know why you did that, why you said that. Well, Shannon didn't give a clear answer or any answer at all because the truth of the matter is she did that to destroy the DeBros. She wanted to tarnish his image, bring them down for whatever happened in whatever season that they were, the last season they were all in together. So there you have it. She did her apology tour. So after all of that, Shannon goes to her boyfriend and she tells her boyfriend what happened. She tells him that she had to apologize to Heather. She had to apologize to Terry. And she said that Terry showed more grace than Heather, and she felt like he accepted her apology more than Heather did. And she also tells her boyfriend that Shannon basically told her that the next time she crosses her, she will lose more than just her friendship. And Shannon's boyfriend is like, well, that doesn't sit well with me. Who cares? What are you going to do about it? Shannon's boyfriend, what are you going to do about it? So, anyways, moving on from that. So Dr. Jen, she wanted to have a talk with Noella because there's this underlying tension between these two women, and Dr. Jen wanted to get to the bottom of it. So Dr. Jen is talking to Nicole, and Nicole is like, hey, this is a good time to bring her over because Noella was somewhere nearby, and all she had to do was just call her and tell her to come over. But for whatever reason, Dr. Jen didn't do it. I think she was kind of scared and intimidated by Noella. So Nicole does it for her. So Nicole starts off with, hey, Noella, what are you drinking? So this brings Noella over. And it opens the door for her and Dr. Jen to hash this issue out. It all boils down to this, and none of this made any sense to me. Noella tells Dr. Jen that first of all, they were having some type of discrepancy as far as how many times they've actually encountered each other. Dr. Jen said, we've met 5 or 6 times. Noella says, no, we've met twice. I'm not sure what the point of that is. How was that relevant to anything? I don't know. So then Noella proceeds to say, look, this is the issue that I have with you. You have posted a picture, a selfie of yourself on Instagram, and in very poor lighting, by the way. And you had tagged a whole bunch of people, and you also had tagged me. And she says, I am working with another med spa, so I can't have you tagging me in your Instagram photos. She says, I had to call Instagram and get that post taken down. Dr. Jen, she's like, I don't remember tagging you. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't remember. So I'm listening to this conversation and I'm trying to figure out what is the big deal about Dr. Jen tagging Noella. Is she working for a company that is in direct competition with Dr. Jen? And so if she's tagged, not even like a picture of her was on her Instagram, she was just tagged. So and I think the post had said, her caption was she was thanking all of her employees or something, or the people that were, I don't know. She was thanking, I guess, I don't remember who she was thanking in that Instagram photo. And she tagged Noella. But anyway, so Noella said she had to get the picture taken down. And I guess whatever company Noella works for is in direct competition with Dr. Jen's clinic. And so this was like a conflict of interest or something. But who looks at the tags anyway? That's what I don't understand. So anyway, so that's Noella's big issue. And she also had said that they were at Bronwyn's house at some event. I'm not exactly sure when. And Noella said that Dr. Jen appeared really thirsty at Bronwyn's house. Like she was really thirsty for attention. And Dr. Jen was like, what are you even talking about? And then Dr. Jen says to Noella, well, you said that Tom Ford was your God. And then Noella walks away from her and she's like, go be relevant somewhere else. So they each are, they're going their separate ways. Dr. Jan goes to Heather, tells Heather what happened. Noella goes to Shannon, tells Shannon what happened. And I guess Noella must have overheard Dr. Jan talking about her because she made a beeline right back to Dr. Jan. And she says they start bickering. They're going back and forth about whatever. I have no idea what. And then Heather and Shannon had to come and separate the two women. I don't know if they were like afraid that they were going to start throwing punches at each other or throwing drinks at each other, but they felt the need to separate the two women. So then Heather sits. Okay, so we're done with all of that. Now it's time to have dinner and do the whole toast. Emily was going to toast her husband Shane. And before she sat down, Shannon and her boyfriend wanted to get a plate of food. So they go where the food is. The food's been completely demolished. So they get whatever's left or whatever they know. And when they go back to sit down, Shannon, and she's all confused and befuddled like always. I don't know where to sit. Where am I supposed to sit? And Emily goes, oh, you're over there. So she had sat her next to Noella, and Heather was sitting with Emily and Gina, I believe. So Shannon says to Noella under her breath, she says, Heather is already avoiding me because someone else sat y'all at different tables. I don't understand why you feel like she's avoiding you. This is a party. People are mingling. People are going to talk to other people. But Shannon felt like Heather was avoiding her. I'm not exactly sure what Shannon was expecting Heather to do after they have this really uncomfortable conversation. And Shannon had to apologize over and over and over again. I don't know, but she felt like Heather was avoiding her. So at the table that Heather is sitting at, she's sitting there with Gina, and she leans over and she invites Gina to a racetrack event. And I guess Shannon had overheard. And of course, this has probably had Shannon absolutely burning, and she felt like maybe, she should have invited everybody, or at the very least invited her. But in her confessional, Shannon says it was really rude of Heather to invite someone to an event when you're sitting at a table full of people and you're not inviting anyone else. You're only inviting one particular person. Okay, so Shannon, now you are the queen of Miss Etiquette. You are the one that is setting the example of etiquette and politeness. But you're also the same person that wanted to spread a very vicious rumor about Heather's husband, and you wanted to tarnish his reputation as a doctor by talking about some bogus lawsuit that was filed against him, not really giving the complete story of what happened with that lawsuit. But now all of a sudden you are the queen of etiquette. You're the one that's going to let everybody else know what is proper and improper behavior. Okay, fine, we get it. But I know one thing's for sure and two things for certain. If Heather would have invited Shannon in front of everybody else to this racetrack event and invited nobody else, Shannon would have had no problem with that. So the belly dancers come out. They do their thing. It's fun. It's exciting. They're shaking their bellies and whatever else. And Heather finds a way to sit on Dr. Terry's lap, and she starts dancing and bouncing up and down on Dr. Terry's lap, which is fine. That's her husband. She can do whatever she wants. But I realize this is like a thing of hers, because I remember her in previous seasons when she was on the show. No matter what was going on, if Dr. Terry was in the room and it was like a social gathering of people, Heather always found her way on Dr. Terry's lap. Moving on. Shannon is having dinner with her father and her children, and it's a really cute little scene because he's trying to tell them this really funny story of when he met Dean Martin and the Rat Pack. And of course, the kids have no idea who he's talking about. Shannon is like, Dad, the kids don't even know who you're talking about, which they didn't. They were clueless. They had to Google these people in their confessional. So it was just a cute little scene, and her dad calls himself Gene the Machine. And then Shannon just talks about how important it is to spend time with her family. Her father had mentioned that he wanted to spend more time with her, and so that was just all in all, a cute little family scene. Moving on, Heather. So Heather is talking to her husband Terry on how well they're at their beautiful home, and she's talking to Terry about how well her and Gina are getting along. She's like, me and Gina, we just really click. She says, I don't know if it's because we're both from New York or if it's because it's the whole Italian and Jewish thing that makes us get along so well, but I really like her and we really get along well together. And then after she says that, she makes her rounds to all of her kids, checking up on everything, making sure that their schedules are together, when they're starting school, all of their activities, to each individual child, being a mom. And she goes to Max's room, and Max wrote a book. She wrote a book about being a teenager in this day in life, and all the things that teenagers go through. And I think it got published, I'm assuming, but either way, they're going to have a book release party for Max. And so Heather's really proud of her daughter, and it's a wonderful thing that she did this. At 17 years old, she wrote her book. She wrote a book. And so in the confessional, her and Max are in their confessional, and they're talking about Max, coming out to her family, to her mom. And Heather was really proud of her daughter, and she tells her daughter that, she's happy that her and Terry created this family environment where their children felt comfortable enough to come out to them and to reveal this part of themselves, and it was like a safe place. Max didn't have any issues coming out to her parents and to her family, and it was like a really beautiful thing, and they accept her regardless, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. So that was a really beautiful scene. So let's move on to Noella. So Noella invites Shannon to see her energy healer. Are these real jobs? Like, what qualifies someone to be an energy healer? Do you have to go to school for that? Do you have a degree in that? Do you get a certification for that? Can anybody just say they're like a life coach? I mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? So when they're at the clinic, before they're seen, the energy healing clinic, before they're actually seen, they're having a conversation, and Noella is telling Shannon about her run-in with Dr. Jen. And Shannon does what Shannon does best. She somehow loops the conversation back to her, because she always wants to talk about herself. And she starts telling Noella about her run-in with Heather and how Heather had threatened her and all this and that. And Noella doesn't really care for Heather. So Noella was trying to comfort Shannon and saying, you know what, girl, you're better than that. You don't need her. Don't take that stuff seriously. And in her confessional, Noella says that Heather is very manipulative and controlling, and it's just not cool. Y'all, I cannot wait until Heather and Noella have their confrontation, because the way Heather gets on you, the way Heather gives you a piece of her mind, it's every single time, it's epic. It is so dramatic. The way when she got into Shannon and told Shannon and looked at her deep in her eyes. I mean, she looked at Shannon so deep in her eyes, I think Shannon's ancestors stirred in their grave and told her, if you ever come from my family again, you're going to lose more than my friendship. I cannot wait until Heather and Noella have their confrontation, because Noella's not going to step down. And if Noella has a little bit of drink in her, it's going to be so epic. So Noella is trying to comfort Shannon. And so now it's Shannon's turn to lay on the bed, and the energy healer is like feeling all of her, I don't know what, energy points. I have no idea. She's like rubbing on her calves and her legs and whatever else. And she's telling Shannon that she can feel some type of tension related to children. And so Shannon tells the energy healer that, she's very stressed out about her kids, because she's worried about whether or not she's going to be able to take care of her children financially. And so once again, I'm questioning, Shannon, why are you worried about that? I'm assuming that David gave her a pretty decent settlement. I think she's getting some type of monthly support, either spousal and or child support for the twins. Why are you worried about whether or not you're going to take care of financially of your kids? Is David not going to help you? So if you go through a financial hardship, Shannon, and you're not making any money, or you're not making enough money, David will not step up and take care of his kids. I mean, I thought that if anything, like, I have no idea what's going on with David. Like, as far as, does he only give support as he's court ordered to do, or does he go above and beyond the court order and gives whatever his children need when they need something? He just, takes care of it all. Like, whatever the situation is, I don't see David leaving her high and dry if she was not able to financially take care of her kids. And I thought that both of them were financially supporting the kids in some way. And like, when the kids go to their dad and they're like, Dad, I need this, I want that. What does he tell them? No, you can't have it because I pay your mom child support. Or does he's like, yeah, go, let's go and buy it. Let's go get it. Like, what is happening here? Why is Shannon always having this fear of not being able to take care of her children, as if her ex-husband isn't completely loaded? I don't understand. I need clarification on that. Moving on, Dr. Jen. So Dr. Jen invites Nicole, Emily, and Gina over to her house. The conversation, of course, goes to Noella. They talk about Noella. And Emily is the one that brought it up, in fact. Emily is supposed to be, she comes across as trying to be an ally for Noella, but she started off the conversation to talk about Noella. So she's like, I'm just really trying to figure out, I'm really trying to get clarification on. And she couldn't finish her sentence for some reason. And I think Gina interrupted her because, they're like two peas in a pod. They're like conjoined twins. I think that they think exactly the same thing at the same time. So Gina finished her sentence for her and she was like, oh, you need clarification on Noella. And so Emily's like, yeah, I'm just really trying to understand what happened between the two of you. So Dr. Jen talks about the encounter that she had with Noella. And Dr. Jen said that Noella called her ugly. I don't remember Noella calling her ugly. Noella did say that her picture was poorly lit. Her Instagram photo was poorly lit. And she said something else, but I don't remember her saying that she was ugly. But maybe she did and I missed it. I don't know. But I don't remember Noella. And I'm like, okay, Dr. Jen, you're putting 20 on 10. So Dr. Jen says Noella, another issue that she has with Noella is that Noella was constantly changing the narrative on whether or not she was actually legally married to her husband. Dr. Jen tells the women that, sometimes she would tell me they were married. Sometimes she would tell me that they just had an arrangement. Sometimes she would tell me that, they're planning on getting married or whatever. The story was always changing as far as her marital status. And so Emily says, well, they have to have been married because he filed for divorce, and you can't file for divorce if you're not married. Okay, duh. So that's not the issue though, Emily. So because, and the reason why I said that's not the issue is because you don't know what he filed. I mean, did you look at the court documents? Did Noella show you what she was served with? Like, how do you know what was filed? So Dr. Jen is like, I mean, really? Like, you. So Emily said they have to have been married for them to file for divorce, or for him to file for divorce. And Dr. Jen was like, really? Really? Like, like, were they really married? Does he? All that. So Dr. Jen is basically doubting this whole marital thing with Noella and her husband. And in Emily's confessional, Emily says that because Dr. Jen has her own personal issues with Noella, she wants to tarnish her image with the other ladies. And what she says exactly is this. This is Emily's confessional. She says it's salacious for Dr. Jen to say Noella is not married, and this can tarnish her reputation. Salacious? Tarnish her reputation because she says she may or may not be married. She may or may not be lying about her marital status. Okay, I felt like Emily was going too far. I think she was, really laying it on thick. Like, I don't think, who knows what the truth is with Emily. When it's all said and done, we're going to find out a lot of things that Emily said probably were not on the up and up. A lot of the things that her ex-husband or estranged husband has been saying on the internet is probably not on the up and up. So when you have two people who are divorcing, I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of lies, a lot of half-truths, a lot of gray areas. No one really knows what the deal really is, only the two people involved. Okay, so Dr. Jen has these doubts because Noella, according to Dr. Jen, put the doubts out there as far as whether or not she was actually married. And Dr. Jen said that Noella also told her that her whole wedding was a sham. It was just for appearances. Like, they really were not married. It wasn't like a real wedding. I'm just like, this is too much. And so Emily really feels some kind of way about this. So when Emily goes to visit Noella, she goes over to Noella's house, and when they sit down to talk, Noella is whispering, and she tells Emily that she's losing her voice. And she says that whenever I'm stressed out, I tend to lose my voice. And in Emily's confessional, she doubted that. So, okay, so you feel like she's telling the truth about being married, but you're doubting the reason why she claims she's losing her voice, or whether or not she's actually lost her voice. That you're doubting that. So in her confessional, Emily says, well, did she really lose her voice, or is she just trying to talk quietly because she doesn't want, because there's surveillance in her house and she doesn't want to be heard? Okay, why didn't you just anyways? So Noella says to Emily that Noella says to Emily that her husband, she thought okay, someone's ringing her doorbell, and she goes to answer it, and it's a man standing there with a bouquet of flowers. And she thought, I guess, maybe that the flowers are from her husband. So she's looking for the card. And the person, the man who's giving her the flowers, hands her some documents and says, you've been served. So her husband had her served through a flower delivery service. Well, it's a service processor who pretended to be a flower delivery service. And so Emily and Noella talk about how, that was just low down and dirty, how that was really horrible for him to do that and in that fashion. And, then Emily, because Emily's fishing for information. Then Emily says, "So you've been married for about a year, right?" And Noella clearly says, "Well, we've been together for 6 years, and we've been living in a husband and wife life for 6 years, and he was going through a very lengthy divorce, and we have a 2-year-old together." Okay, the question was, you've been married for 6 years. I mean, you've been married for about a year, right? Why are you giving us all this extra information? And what does living a husband and wife life mean? What does that mean, Noella? Why can't you just say, yeah, we've been together for 6, married for 1, like the way normal people talk? Yeah, we've been together for 15 years, but married for 10. Like, what are you talking about, living a husband and wife life? And you have a 2-year-old together. Like, what are you trying to imply? So are you trying to say that, yes, we've been married for a year, but we've been living as husband and wife for 6 years because he was going through this lengthy divorce, and so we couldn't get married, when we wanted to? Is that what you're trying to say? Then why didn't you just say that? Like, why didn't you just say, we've been together for 6 years. We couldn't get married until after his divorce was final. The divorce took 6 years to finalize, and then we got married, and we've been married for about a year. So her whole answer to Emily's question to me was kind of fishy. Maybe she really is married. I don't know. But the way she answered that question really was kind of fishy. So then there's a scene with Shannon talking to her mom, FaceTiming her mom, because Shannon plans to visit her mother in Nashville. And this is just to reiterate how Shannon is trying to spend as much time as possible with her elderly parents. Her dad's like 92. Her mom is somewhere around there, maybe in her late 80s. And so she's trying to spend as much time as possible. And she says in her confessional that it's really important. No, she says in her confessional that she's very lucky to have parents who've lived this long. And she really is. Okay, let's go on to the racetrack. It is racetrack time. So basically, Gina is fangirling over Heather. And I'm thinking that's why this relationship works, because Heather probably likes to be admired and looked up to, and she feels like she's probably an example to Gina. She's setting an example for Gina, and Gina is probably like the girl from the wrong side of the tracks who befriends the girl from the right side of the tracks, and she just can't believe that the popular rich girl actually likes to hang out with me. That's what I think is going on here. Because in her confessional, Heather was saying things like, oh my God, Heather is so amazing. Everything she touches turns to diamonds. What? What are you talking about? So at the racetrack, oh, and by the way, a week before the racetrack event, they had a picnic together. So at the racetrack, it's all high sedity. They got to, I don't know if they were taking a picture in the winner's circle or what they were doing in the winner's circle, but they got to stand in the winner's circle and they had tables. Plus, one of the really high rollers of the racetrack was, I guess, hosting them because he was also there. He's this guy that bets like hundreds and thousands of dollars on these horses, maybe up to $1 million. I don't know, but he's like a high roller. And so he was also there with them. So they're sitting at the table and, they're, socializing or whatever. And then Gina leans over to Heather and tells Heather that Noella told her, Gina, to watch out for Heather because she can't be trusted. And so Heather takes it all in, right? And I'm pretty sure underneath that surface, she is probably like boiling over like a volcano because of what Noella is saying about her. But she's not going to let it show. So she's like, I wonder why she would say that. I mean, I've even invited her to Max's book release party. Should I uninvite her because she has these feelings about me? I wonder why she's saying these things about me, like all innocent and like acting like she's really not bothered. But honey, let me tell you, when she finally gets to Noella, I will be there front row and center. I cannot wait. So it may not even be as dramatic as it was with Shannon because Shannon was actually trying to ruin their reputation and Noella is just, flapping her gums. But I hope it's going to be epic. So they betted on horse number 6, and evidently horse number 6 won, and they were all excited. And once again, Heather found her way to Dr. Dubrov's lap, and so she's sitting on his lap and she's bouncing up and down because she's so excited that their horse won. Yeah, and that is it. That is the end of my review. I kind of went in the wrong order towards the end because Noella and Emily's meeting was after the whole racetrack thing. But yeah, that's the end of my review. Let me see if I have any final thoughts about this. All I can say is I need to see the confrontation between Heather and Noella. I cannot wait. Heather is really bringing it this season. Anyway, so that is my review. If you made it this far, thank you so much. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will definitely be talking to you later. Bye.